Zara never thought a simple blood test would change everything. She was just doing her regular health check at the research lab, where she worked as a scientist. But when Dr. Blake walked into her office 3 days later, with a thick folder and a strange look on her face, Zara knew something was wrong. "Sit down," Dr. Blake said, her voice unusually serious. Zara had known her for 2 years, and she'd never seen her boss look this worried. "What's going on? Is there something wrong with my test results?" Zara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Her mind raced through possibilities. Cancer? Some rare disease? Dr. Blake opened the folder and pulled out several papers covered in numbers and charts. "Zara, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but I need you to listen carefully." The next 30 minutes felt like a dream. Dr. Blake explained that Zara's DNA contained genetic markers that shouldn't exist in modern humans. According to the computer analysis, she belonged to something called the Luminar people, an ancient group of humans who had lived alongside regular people for thousands of years. "Think of them as cousins to regular humans," Dr. Blake said, trying to make it simple. "They looked just like us, but they were different inside, smarter in some ways. They could sense things others couldn't. They lived longer too." Zara stared at the papers, feeling like she was watching someone else's life. "This is crazy. You're telling me I'm some kind of, what, alien?" "Not alien, very much human, just a different branch of the human family tree." Dr. Blake's voice was gentle but firm. The Luminor people lived in secret for centuries. They had to hide because regular humans feared them. Many were killed over the years. The last known communities disappeared about 100 years ago. The room felt cold suddenly. "So where are the others? Where's my family? My real family?" Dr. Blake's expression grew darker. "Zara, according to every database we have access to, every genetic record we can find, you're the only one left." The words hit her like a punch to the stomach. "That's impossible. We've checked everything. Military records, hospital databases, research files from around the world. Your genetic signature is unique. You're the last of your people." Zara stood up quickly, knocking over her coffee cup. The hot liquid spread across her desk, but she didn't notice. "This is insane. You're telling me I'm the last person of my kind on the entire planet? I know it's hard to accept." "Hard to accept." Zara's voice rose. "You just told me I'm some kind of endangered species? It's like I'm the last panda or something?" Dr. Blake waited for Zara to calm down before continuing. "There's more. We found something else in our search." Zara felt her heart sink even further. "What now?" "There's one other person, not a full Luminar like you, but someone with compatible genetics. His name is Leo. He has dormant Luminar genes from his grandmother's side. According to our scientists, if you two had children together, they would carry the full Luminar genetic heritage." The room started spinning. Zara grabbed the back of her chair for support. "Are you serious right now? You want me to? With some random guy? Just to save my species?" "I'm not saying you have to do anything. But the government is very interested in preserving what's left of the Luminar people. They want to offer you both a choice." "What kind of choice?" Dr. Blake pulled out another folder. "They want to bring you both to a secure facility. You'd have the best scientists in the world studying your heritage, learning about your people's history. You'd be comfortable, well taken care of. And if you decided to have a family with Leo, your children would grow up knowing their full heritage." Zara felt sick. "You want to put me in a lab like some kind of experiment? It's not like that. You'd be partners in the research, not subjects. You'd help decide what gets studied and how, and if I say no..." Dr. Blake was quiet for a long moment. Then the Luminor people disappear forever. All their knowledge, all their gifts, all their history, gone. Zara walked to the window and stared out at the parking lot. Normal people going about their normal lives, none of them carrying the weight of an entire species on their shoulders. "I need time to think, of course. Zara, there's something else you should know. Leo doesn't know yet. He's about to get the same visit you just got. He's going to be just as shocked and confused as you are right now." Zara turned around. "What's he like?" "From what I know, he's a good man. A scientist like you, but he studies genetics. He's been doing research on rare inherited traits his whole career. In a way, he's been searching for answers about himself without knowing it. And you think we'll just fall in love and save the species together?" Dr. Blake shook her head. I think you'll both do whatever feels right to you, but you deserve to know your options. And he deserves to know the truth about himself, too. Zara picked up the scattered papers from her desk, looking at the charts and numbers that apparently defined her entire existence. When do I have to decide? Take as much time as you need. But remember, every day you wait is another day the world loses a little more of what makes the Luminar people special. After Dr. Blake left, Zara sat alone in her office for hours. The sun set outside her window, and the building grew quiet around her. She thought about her parents who had died in a car accident when she was young. Had they known? Had they been hiding this secret her whole life? She thought about all the times she'd felt different from other people. How she always seemed to understand things faster than her classmates. How she sometimes knew what people were feeling before they said anything. How she'd always felt like she was looking for something she couldn't name. Now she knew what she'd been looking for. She'd been looking for her people. They were all gone except for her. By the time she finally left the office that night, Zara had made her decision. She was going to meet this Leo person, not because the government wanted her to, and not because she felt obligated to save her species. She was going to meet him because she was tired of being alone. Leo was in the middle of examining DNA samples when 3 people in dark suits walked into his lab. He looked up from his microscope, confused. His small research facility rarely had visitors, especially ones who looked like they belonged in spy movies. Dr. Leo Rivera, the woman in front asked, showing him some kind of official badge. Yes, that's me. Can I help you? I need to talk to you about your genetic background. My genetic background? My genetic background? I studied genetics. For a living, what could you possibly tell me that I don't already know? The woman, who introduced herself as Agent Davis, sat down across from his desk. More than you might think. What happened next made Leo question everything he thought he knew about himself. The agents explained that his DNA contained traces of something called Luminor genetics, inherited from his grandmother's side of the family. They told him about an ancient group of humans with special abilities who had lived in secret for thousands of years. This is ridiculous, Leo said, standing up and pacing around his small lab. You're talking about something out of a science fiction movie. I understand it's hard to believe, Agent Davis said calmly, but we have proof. Grandmother, Rosa Rivera, was half Luminar. She probably never knew it herself. Leo stopped pacing. His grandmother had always been different. She seemed to know things before they happened. She could sense when family members were in trouble, even from far away. Everyone just called it women's intuition, even if this is true, which I'm not. Saying, it is, why are you telling me? Because there's someone else. A woman named Zara. She's the last full Luminor person alive. And according to our genetic analysis, you're the only person on Earth who could help continue her bloodline. Leo felt like the room was spinning. You want me to what? We want you to meet her, that's all. No pressure, no obligations. I'll just meet her and learn about your heritage together. Leo shook his head. This is insane. You can't just show up and tell someone they need to save a species. We're not telling you to do anything, Agent Davis said. We're offering you a chance to understand who you really are. 2 days later, Leo found himself at a government research facility in the mountains. The place looked more like a resort than a lab, with comfortable rooms and beautiful views. But Leo knew he wasn't really a guest. He was here for a very specific purpose. Dr. Blake, the scientist in charge, showed him to a conference room where a young woman was already sitting. She had dark hair and intense eyes that seemed to look right through him. Leo, this is Zara, Dr. Blake said. Zara, meet Leo. The silence that followed was awkward. Leo didn't know what to say. How do you start a conversation with someone you're supposedly meant to save a species with? So, Zara finally said, you're the guy with the magic genes. Leo almost smiled. And you're the last of your kind. No pressure there. They both looked at Dr. Blake, who seemed to realize they needed privacy. I'll let you two talk. Take all the time you need. After she left, Leo and Zara sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. This is weird, right? Zara said eventually. Beyond weird, Leo agreed. A week ago, I was just a guy studying inherited diseases. Now apparently I'm some kind of genetic savior. Joined the club. Found out I'm not even fully human. Leo studied her face. She looked tired, like she hadn't been sleeping well. Ow. Are you handling all this? Zara shrugged. Not great. They keep talking about my people like they were some kind of superhuman race. But all I know is that they're gone, and I'm alone. You're not alone now, Leo said quietly. Aren't I? What? You're here because some computer said our DNA would match up well. That's not exactly the same as having family. Leo understood that feeling. He'd always felt like he didn't quite fit anywhere. I used to have these weird moments as a kid, he said, like I'd know things before they happened. Small things, like when it was going to rain or when my mom was about to call, everyone said. I was just good at reading people. Zara looked up with interest. Really? My grandmother was the same way. She always knew when someone was lying or when something bad was about to happen. My family thought she was just very wise. Maybe she was more than wise. Over the next few hours, they shared stories about the strange experiences they'd both had growing up. Zara talked about how she'd always been able to sense people's emotions, even when they tried to hide them. Leo described the vivid dreams he sometimes had. That turned out to be real places he'd never visited. Dr. Blake returned with a folder full of research about the Luminar people. She showed them old documents and photographs, explaining what scientists had learned about their abilities and culture. The Luminar people weren't just smart, Dr. Blake explained. They had a deep connection to each other and to the natural world. They could sense things that regular humans couldn't. Some could even share thoughts with people they were close to. Share thoughts? Leo asked, feeling uncomfortable. It wasn't mind reading, Dr. Blake said quickly. It's more like an emotional connection. Luminar people formed very strong bonds with their partners and families. Zara crossed her arms. So if we had kids together, they'd be able to do all this stuff? Potentially, yes. But more importantly, they'd carry on the Luminar heritage. All the knowledge and culture that would otherwise be lost forever. Leo looked at Zara. She was staring out the window at the mountains, her expression unreadable. Do you think he asked her? I think they're asking us to make the biggest decision of our lives based on DNA tests and old stories, Zara said. But I also think maybe we owe it to ourselves to learn more. Leo nodded. I've spent my whole career studying genetics, trying to understand how traits get passed down through families. I never thought I'd become the subject of my own research. Doctor? Blake leaned forward. So you'll stay? Both of you? Zara and Leo looked at each other. There was something happening between them, Leo realized. Not romance, not yet. But recognition. Like they were both seeing themselves reflected in another person for the first time. We'll stay, Zara said finally. But not because you want us to save the world. We'll stay because we want to understand what this all means. For ourselves, Leo added. It's not for anyone else's agenda. Dr. Blake smiled. That's all we can ask for. That night, Leo lay in his comfortable bed in the facility, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel completely alone. Somewhere down the hall, there was another person who understood what it felt like to be different. Someone who might help him figure out who he really was. He still wasn't sure about the whole saving the species thing, but he was definitely interested in getting to know Zara better. 3 weeks into their stay at the research facility, Zara started having the dreams. They weren't like normal dreams that fade when you wake up. These felt real. It's like memories that belonged to someone else. She was walking through a beautiful city she'd never seen before. The buildings were made of white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. People moved through the streets with a calm confidence, their eyes bright with intelligence. Children played games that looked like they were moving objects with their minds. It's happening to you too, isn't it? Leo asked during breakfast one morning. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well either. The dreams. Zara nodded. Last night I was in some kind of library. The books were floating off the shelves by themselves. I've been seeing the same city for a week now, Leo said quietly, looking around to make sure Dr. Blake wasn't listening. It feels like I've been there before, but I know I haven't. Dr. Blake appeared at their table with her morning coffee and a thick notebook. How are you both feeling today? Different, Zara said honestly. Things are happening that I don't understand. What kind of things? Leo hesitated before answering. Yesterday, I knew the phone in my room was going to ring 30 seconds before it actually did, and not just a guess. I knew. Dr. Blake's eyes lit up with excitement.
Luminor.
Abilities are awakening. This is exactly what we hoped would happen when you two spent time together. What do you mean when we spend time together? Zara asked. Luminar people have always been stronger when they're near others of their kind. Your presence is activating Leo's dormant genetics, and his presence is helping you access abilities you didn't know you had. That afternoon, Dr. Blake brought them to a new part of the facility they hadn't seen before. The room was filled with strange equipment and computers showing brainwave patterns. We want to run some tests, she explained. Nothing invasive. Just monitoring to see what's happening in your minds. Zara felt uncomfortable. We're not lab rats. Of course not. But understanding your abilities could help us learn so much about human potential. The tests started simple. They asked Zara to guess what was inside sealed boxes. She got 7 out of 10 correct. They had Leo predict which cards would be drawn from a deck. He got most of them right. But the strangest thing happened when they sat across from each other at a small table. Dr. Blake asked them to just look at each other and see what they felt. At first, nothing happened. Then Zara started getting flashes of Leo's childhood. She saw him as a little boy, sitting alone in his room, while other kids played outside. She felt his loneliness like it was her own memory. Leo's eyes went wide. You're thinking about my 8th birthday party, the one where no one came. Zara's heart ached. You were so sad. You sat by the window waiting. How do you know that? Dr. Blake was writing furiously in her notebook. You're forming a connection. This is incredible. But the connection felt too intense. Zara could feel Leo's emotions mixing with her own. His confusion, his fear, his curiosity about her. It was overwhelming. Stop, she said, pulling back from the table. I can't handle this. Leo looked shaken too. That was ... intense. Over the next few days, the tests became more frequent and more invasive. Dr. Blake brought in other scientists who wanted to scan their brains and take more blood samples. Commander Torres, the military officer in charge of security, started asking questions about their abilities. Could you influence other people's thoughts? He asked during one session. We're not weapons, Leo said firmly. Of course not. But imagine. The applications for communication, for understanding human psychology. Zara and Leo exchanged glances. They were both thinking the same thing. This was getting out of control. That night, they met in the facility's small library. They'd started spending more time together, partly because they enjoyed each other's company, and partly because strange things happened when they were apart. I think they're planning to keep us here permanently, Zara said, keeping her voice low. I heard Commander Torres talking about moving us to a more secure location, Leo agreed. Something about protecting valuable assets. Assets, not people. Assets. Leo closed the book he'd been pretending to read. What if we left? You mean escape? I mean leave. We're not prisoners, technically. Zara looked around the comfortable room with its soft chairs and warm lighting. Aren't we, though? When was the last time anyone asked what we wanted to do? The next morning brought another surprise. Dr. Blake announced that they would no longer be allowed to leave the facility, even for supervised walks outside. It's for your safety, she explained. Other organizations are interested in people like you, need to keep you protected. Protected or controlled? Zara asked. There's a difference? That afternoon, while Dr. Blake was in a meeting with Commander Torres, Zara and Leo made their move. Leo had been having stronger flashes of insight about what was going to happen. Next, he knew the guards' schedules and which exits would be unwatched. Are you sure about this? Zara whispered as they crept through the facility's back corridors. No, Leo said honestly. But I'm sure I don't want to spend the rest of my life as someone else's experiment. They made it to Leo's car in the parking garage without being seen. As they drove away from the facility, Zara felt a mixture of relief and terror. Where are we going? She asked. I have a cabin in the mountains. My grandfather left it to me. It's isolated off the grid. We can figure out what we want to do without anyone watching us. Zara looked back at the research facility, disappearing. Behind them, do you think we're making a mistake? Leo was quiet for a moment. Maybe, but it's our mistake to make. As they drove through the mountain roads, something strange happened. The connection between them felt stronger, clearer. Zara could sense Leo's thoughts without the overwhelming flood of emotions from before. It felt natural, like they'd been connected their whole lives and were just now noticing it. "Leo," she said softly. "I feel it too," he replied. Understanding. Without explanation, for the first time since learning about her heritage, Zara didn't feel alone. She still didn't know what the future would hold or whether they were falling in love or just fulfilling their genetic destiny. But she knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next, they would face it together. On their own terms. The mountains rose around them as they drove toward their new life. Two people discovering what it meant to be truly free. Leo's cabin sat on 20 acres of pine forest, with no neighbors for miles around. The nearest town was an hour's drive down winding mountain roads. It was the perfect place to disappear. For the first week, Zara and Leo lived like they were on vacation. They cooked simple meals together, read books by the fireplace, and took long walks through the woods. But they both knew they were hiding from more than just the government facility. "We need to talk about what's happening between us," Zara said one evening as they sat on the cabin's front porch watching the sunset. Leo had been dreading this conversation. "The connection, you mean?" "All of it. The way I can sense your feelings. How you always know what I'm thinking before I say it. Whether any of this is real or just our genetics playing tricks on us." It was a fair question. Over the past few weeks, their psychic bond had grown stronger. They could share emotions and sometimes even thoughts without trying. When Leo was happy, Zara felt lighter. When Zara was worried, Leo's chest tightened with anxiety. "Does it matter?" Leo asked. Does it matter why we feel connected to each other? It matters to me. I want to know if you care about me because you choose to, or because some ancient programming is telling you to." Leo turned to face her. "What do you think?" "I think I'm scared," Zara said honestly. "I've never felt this close to another person, but I don't know if it's love or just biology." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind in the trees. Finally, Leo spoke. "When I was a kid, I used to dream about finding someone who understood me. Someone who didn't think I was weird for knowing things I shouldn't know. You're that person, Zara. Luminar genetics or not. But what if we're wrong? What if this is all just an illusion? Then we'll figure it out together." Their quiet life was interrupted 3 weeks later when Dr. Blake showed up at their door. She came alone, without guards or government agents, looking tired and worried. "Before you slam the door," she said quickly, "I need to tell you something important. You're both in danger." Reluctantly, they let her inside. Dr. Blake explained that other organizations had learned about the Luminar research. Some wanted to study people like Zara and Leo. Others wanted to use their abilities for less noble purposes. "The facility has been shut down," Dr. Blake said. "Commander Torres was removed from the project. But there are others looking for you now." "Why should we trust you?" Zara asked. "Because I brought you this." Dr. Blake pulled out a tablet computer.
"Hey, we've been analyzing genetic databases from around the world. You're not as alone as we thought."
But screen showed a map with dozens of red dots scattered across different countries. Each dot represented someone with traces of Luminar DNA in their family history. "Most of them don't know what they are," Dr. Blake explained. "Their abilities are dormant, like Leo's were, but the potential is there." Leo studied the map. "How many people are we talking about? Maybe a few hundred worldwide? Scattered, isolated, most of them thinking they're just unusually intuitive or lucky." Zara felt a flutter of hope. "The Luminar people aren't really extinct. Not extinct. Just sleeping. Waiting for someone to wake them up." Dr. Blake stayed for dinner and told them more about what the research team had discovered. The Luminar people hadn't been wiped out completely. Some had hidden so well that their descendants didn't even know their heritage. Others had intermarried with regular humans until their abilities became so diluted they were barely noticeable. But with the right guidance, with people like you to teach them, they could rediscover their abilities, Dr. Blake said. "You want us to be some kind of teachers?" Leo asked. "I want you to have a choice. You could stay hidden here forever, just the two of you, or you could help others like yourselves find their way home." That night, after Dr. Blake had gone to the guest room, Zara and Leo talked until dawn. "What do you want to do?" Leo asked. I want to help them, Zara said without hesitation. I spent my whole life feeling alone and different. If we can help other people avoid that, shouldn't we try? Even if it means giving up our privacy, our safety. Zara was quiet for a long moment. Leo, can I tell you something I've been thinking about? Always. I want to have children with you. Not because the government wants us to, not to save the species, because I love you, and I want to build a family with you. Leo felt his heart skip a beat. Are you sure? I'm sure about you. I'm sure about us. Everything else we can figure out as we go. Leo kissed her then, and through their connection, Zara felt his joy mixing with her own. It was overwhelming and wonderful and completely natural all at the same time. So we'll help them? Leo asked. The others, we'll help them, but we'll do it our way. No more government facilities, no more treating people like experiments. The next morning, they told Dr. Blake their decision. They would work with her to contact the people on the map, but only those who wanted to learn about their heritage. It's no pressure, no obligations. We'll start small, Zara said. Find a few people who are ready to listen. See what happens. Dr. Blake smiled. I think that's exactly what the world needs. As they began planning their new mission, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced since learning about her heritage. Hope. She wasn't the last of her people after all. She was the first of a new generation, and she wouldn't be doing it alone. 5 years had passed since that conversation on the cabin porch. Zara stood at the kitchen window, one hand resting on her rounded belly, watching Leo teach a small group of people how to meditate in their backyard. The cabin had been expanded into a proper retreat center, hidden away in the mountains, but welcoming to those who found their way there. Word had spread quietly through networks of people who had always felt different, always known they were capable of more than the world expected. Their first child kicked inside her, and Zara smiled. Through her connection with Leo, she felt him pause in his teaching and send her a wave of love and excitement. In 3 months, their daughter would be born. A child who would grow up knowing exactly who she was and where she came from. How are you feeling? Asked Kira, one of their first students, as she joined Zara in the kitchen. Tired but happy, Zara replied. Kira had arrived 2 years ago, a confused young woman who had been having prophetic dreams her entire life. She helped coordinate their outreach to other potential Luminar descendants. Any word from the team in Germany? Zara asked. They found 3 more families, all willing to learn. Kira poured herself some tea. But there's something else. Doctor Blake called this morning. She says there are other groups looking for our people again. Zara felt a familiar worry tighten in her chest. They'd been careful to stay off official radars, but their growing network was becoming harder to hide. What kind of groups? Private. Companies, mostly. They want to study Luminor abilities for commercial purposes. Maybe military applications, too. Through the window, Zara watched Leo finish his session and hug each of the students goodbye. Some were local people who drove up from town once a week. Others had traveled across the country to spend a month learning about their heritage. Figure it out, Zara said, just as Leo had told her years ago. We always do. That evening, their small community gathered around the dinner table, as they did every night. 8 people who had found their way to the mountain retreat, each with their own story of discovering their Luminar heritage. I got an email from the family in Japan, announced Tom, a middle-aged man who had thought his ability to sense emotions was just good people skills. Their daughter is showing signs of telepathic ability. And the woman in Brazil wants to visit next month, added Lisa, who had driven up from Denver after years of having dreams about places she'd never been. Dr. Blake, who now split her time between the cabin and her new research position at a university, pulled out her tablet. The network is growing faster than we expected. We have contacts in 15 countries now. Leo looked around the table at their chosen family. Sometimes I can't believe how far we've come. Sometimes I can't believe we're not hiding anymore. Zara added, after dinner, while the others sat around the fireplace sharing stories, Zara and Leo walked outside to their favorite spot overlooking the valley. The stars were brilliant in the clear mountain air. Do you ever regret it? Zara asked, giving up our quiet life for all this? Leo put his arm around her shoulders. Never. Do you? No. But I worry sometimes about our daughter, about the world we're bringing her into. We'd be stronger than both of us, Leo said with certainty. And she'll have something we never had growing up. What's that? A community. People who understand her from the very beginning. Zara felt the baby kick again, as if she was agreeing with her father. I think she's going to change everything. I think she already has. As they stood together under the stars, Zara felt the presence of their growing network of friends and students around the world. People who were learning to embrace their gifts instead of hiding them. Families who were discovering their true heritage. Children who would grow up knowing they belonged to something special. The Luminar people weren't extinct. They were just beginning to wake up. And Zara and Leo had become the ones to help them remember who they really were. Their species had a future, after all. Not because of government programs or genetic obligations, but because people had chosen love over fear, community over isolation,